A gangster's moll, wanted for testimony against her boyfriend, hides out with a group of unsuspecting professors hoping to squeeze her for information about modern slang for the encyclopedia they're building. In the 1941 screwball comedy, Ball of Fire. And that's the movie we're dusting off this week on Movie Bones.
That goes for a banger, a fish, a buck, or a rug.
What about the mouse?
The mouse is the dish. That's what I need the moolah for.
Moolah?
Yeah, the dough. We'll be stepping me in the smooch. I mean the dish. I mean the mouse. You know, hit the jiggles for a little rum boogie.
Please, not so fast.
Brother, we're gonna have some hoy-toy-toy.
Hoy-toy-toy.
Yeah. And if you want that one explained, you go ask your papas.
Miss Bragg!
What's the matter, Bob?
Well, I'm going out. The garbage man. Didn't you hear him?
Yes.
Well, I didn't quite understand all he said.
Nor did I. And it's catastrophic, gentlemen. Catastrophic.
Why?
So? I've just finished my article on slang. 23 pages compiled from a dozen reference books. 800 examples.
Well?
Everything from the idiotic combination absentatively to the pejorative use of zigzag. I traced the evolution of hunky-dory, tracked down skidoo from skedaddle. 800 examples, and I may as well throw it in the wastebasket. 3 weeks' work.
Oh, you're hysterical.
Outmoded, based on reference books 20 years old. Take smooch, take dish, take
Hoy-toy-toy?
hoy-toy-toy. Not one of them included. Living in this house cut off from the world, I've lost touch. And it's inexcusable. That man talked a living language. I embalmed some dead phrases.
But where are you going?
Out to collect new data. To tap the sources of slang, the major sources. The streets, the slums.
And that is Gary Cooper as Professor Bertram Potts coming to the realization that language is actually alive, go figure, which is something I thought a professor of languages would already know, and that the purpose of an encyclopedia isn't to document every verbal fad that exists in the moment, but which ones have entered the language in more lasting ways, having proven themselves over the at least some time period. But of course, if we went by those rules, then the movie wouldn't exist, and that would be a shame, because essentially what we have here is a really enjoyable kind of fun retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, kind of repurposed around 8 professors and their well-meaning but somewhat naive gangsters moll who's hiding among them so she can avoid testifying against her criminal boyfriend. And I shouldn't be surprised, though, it kind of works as well as it does, Ryan, because I looked at who wrote the movie. It's Billy Wilder, who we know pretty well by now from The Apartment and, of course, Sunset Boulevard. So very sharp writing is kind of his thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I did not know that was actually Billy Wilder that did this, but it makes sense now. This was a surprisingly great, fun film. And it is kind of funny that you brought up the whole Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs thing, because it's talked like they talk about that in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, one of the gangsters, he tells her as the movie is progressing, and he's talking to her, "What are you now, Snow White? And you have your 7 little dwarves?" There was that moment, I wasn't even thinking about it, but there was that moment when he said that, and I was going, he's got a point.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's got to be intentional. It's just, but I love the way that they kind of reworked the elements of Snow White here.
I think so.
I love it the way that they reworked the elements, because you've got, the prince is actually living with the dwarves, and he doesn't even know he's a prince yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that you've got, she's not running away from the wicked queen. She's running away from her boyfriend, the gangster, the mafia gangster guy, it's like, so it's, and because she's complicit, she's kind of complicit in that too. So that kind of adds an extra
because it adds the complications to it. Because for the third of the movie, she's on her boyfriend's side.
Yeah.
Like she does, obviously, like in a movie like this, she gets to a point where they've grown on her, and then as they grow on her, she starts to feel a little bit bad, but ultimately she wants to get back with her boyfriend. And then it's just shenanigans ensue and everything. What I really appreciated about this movie is how the premise sets itself up. It is a very simple premise. A professor goes into the world trying to figure out slang. And then from there, we have all of this stuff unfold. Like, as storytellers, sometimes the simplest way is best. And in this instance, the simple setup was just a great setup. It was a great setup for everything because it led him to where he wanted, where it needed. It led him to where he needed to go in the story, and then that led us to, this thing happening, this thing happening,
Yeah.
this thing happening. Two of the best storytellers, in my opinion, out there are Trey Parker and Matt Stone. And if you don't know who they are, they were the guys that actually invented South Park. Which I know maybe that's not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm not sitting here promoting that. But I was watching a clip, not from South Park. I was watching a clip of them teaching a course, writing course, and everything. I guess it was a writing course, and I thought it was just so profound. And this is what this story does. This is why I'm bringing this up. When you're writing a story, it is not this happens and then this happens and then this happens. That's not how your story needs to be told. Your story needs to be told in this way. This happens, and because this happens,
Yes.
this happens next.
Yes.
And because this happens next. And this is a perfect screenshot, in my opinion, of that. They're writing an encyclopedia, and because they're writing an encyclopedia, they're studying the ways of the world. And because they're studying the ways of the world, they are, talking to people. And because they're talking to people, the professor realizes that his slang is out of date. And you see how it keeps going from there?
Yes.
And it's just so neat how that all just kind of like everything connects. And again, I say this with utmost respect of this. It's such a simple premise, but it leads to just everything else.
Yeah.
Right out the gate, if I say a professor's trying to find slang and he takes down a criminal empire as a result. Like, that's like, what? How do we get from there? And that's what the story does. It takes you from point A to point B or point C, and it's just fascinating. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's what you just did. It's like, that's the log line. That's like the log line, the elevator pitch version of it. That's what you get to use to get to people to like, okay, I'll pay you to write the rest of that story, or I'll pay you because that's what you do to lure them in. But then you show them the joy of cinema. The joy of storytelling is in showing you how you get to there. It's like the first part, like you just said, that's just like baiting the hook. You're just grabbing it just to grab the audience's attention. And any good story, you can boil down to that kind of log line. And this one does take full advantage, like you said, of that back and forth, that because of that then, and because of that then, this happens and that happens and that happens. And then because of that, and on until you get to the end. And it does that really, really well. And Billy Wilder's scripts, getting back to Billy Wilder for a moment, his scripts really all do that really, really well. And in Sunset Boulevard, you say you've got Joe, and he breaks down. He's a troubled writer. He's having trouble making ends meet, and he breaks down in the driveway of someone who actually, who's kind of psychologically not to be trusted, but also someone who could use the services, and they end up using each other. And it's like because of that, he ends up getting sucked in, and because of that, he has to make a crucial decision. And that decision, it ends up making the point of the film, the point of the story. And this movie doesn't, granted, folks, this movie does not have the aspirations of Sunset Boulevard for sure. It's a fun popcorn movie. That's what we're going for. But it doesn't matter if it's a fun popcorn movie or not. The same principle applies. They do give them all their own unique kind of perspectives, and there's an innocence about them that I love, and there's also kind of a bit of, kind of, dare I say, kind of a naughty curiosity at the same time. It's endearing, even though they're kind of have a little bit of dirty minds, but they're still innocent and endearing in another way too, and that balance is really hard to pin down, I have to say.
A toy.
The hoy toy toy.
That one professor, I'm not going to sit there and remember all their names, but that one professor with like his voice is very much pitched, like got to me, not in a bad way, got to me every single time he talked, because it just is such a goofy voice.
In anticipation of, Gary Cooper's character, Bertram Potts, because he thinks he's getting married to Sugar Puss. It's like the world's most odd bachelor's party I think I've ever seen put to film. He's the only one who's ever been married before, and he's trying to describe romance to a bunch of people who have never experienced romance. And I thought that has got to be the most endearing kind of, and even the way he puts it is like, it's like, yes, he's the most experienced. I would never put it that way. It's so specific to him. It kind of is true and is kind of endearing. It's just kind of emblematic of the whole, of all 7 of them. As you almost come to see them as like a unit, you know. They have their own distinct personalities, but they also work as a unit, and they also work as individuals.
I think some of them even share bedrooms.
They think they must.
Like it's kind of hinted that, like, you know, they bunk together. Some of them bunk together and everything. Now, not all of them bunk together, because there's a whole scene about that. But that's a whole other kind of part of this movie that, you know, you might not really think about. You have 8 dudes. You have 8 older professors who, but are all living in this just mansion of a house together.
Yeah, it's not theirs.
And every day they're being bros and they're studying and then they're writing things. And that in of itself is just a fascinating aspect of this movie.
It's such an unusual arrangement, but also at the same time, they make it kind of work. It's like, it doesn't feel like it's completely alien to the human experience.
That's one of the things I love about this movie, is that they make it work. Like, part of one of the big action sequences in this movie is them using their intelligence to get themselves out of the situation. And I thought, like, I was watching that and I was going, it's so nice to see that. I'm not saying that we don't see it in other movies, but it was just so nice to see it. But sometimes, like in movies, you'll have a super intelligent person and then, like, their go-to thing is to, like, drop their intelligence and just punch someone in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I don't hate that in movies, but, like, we have a major jam that they're in, and they honestly use every little bit of intelligence they have to get themselves out of the jam.
The sword of Damocles.
Yeah, that whole part. That's exactly the part I'm talking about. And
Yes,
I love that, that whole sequence. The only thing in that sequence that was going to get in their way is that they had to keep that guy sitting down.
I know, right? They had to keep him sitting down. It's like, oh, just be better if you sat over there. You know, it's like, for this thing, you know, it's like he's buying it too.
Then he's like, I bet you can't shoot this penny out of my hand.
And it took a lot of guts, though. When you think about it, he's putting his life on the line with a coin.
I love how it just keeps going up, too. It's like, oh, I bet you can't shoot this nickel out of my hand. Oh, you know what? This quarter out of my hand.
How about a $50?
And he's like, does anybody got change for $1? Change, and I can pay you back later.
Oh man! But my favorite instance of them using their intelligence, though, is like it actually is the one that actually ends up not coming in use at all. It's like Professor Potts is actually on the way to the rescue to rescue Sugar Puss from her gangster would-be otherwise erstwhile husband, and he's there on the road studying how to box. And he finally gets there to confront the guy face to face, and it doesn't work. So he just goes wild flinging about, and that's what works. It's like, just go do it, man. It's like, it probably wouldn't work either way. I don't know how effective actually those old style boxing, kind of techniques would work anyway. But the fact that they had it not work and then he just goes flailing and that works, that worked for me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I do love the little line there too, because, like, as a dad, I do use that anytime I'm messing with my daughters and we, like, do that, like, kind of play fighting and everything.
Yeah.
I'll look at them and I'll go, put your dukes up. And when he said, put your dukes up, I was like, yes. And the thing is, I like to do that little position because it's so goofy looking. I'm not saying it wasn't useful at one point, but, like, I do that little position. Now, I will tell you this, I'm not a boxer, people, but I have enough, knowledge and know-how to get myself by. I was actually kind of studying his form, and he did a very, very, very old school type of stance and everything.
Yeah.
But I was thinking to myself when I saw it, I was like, no, buddy, keep that arm up so that you can block. He can't hit you you can block a face shot. And I was like, you got this if you just fix the stance and everything.
How about Barbara Stanwyck in this movie, huh? How about that?
We watched our previous movie that we watched was, Sorry, Wrong Number. And as I said in that, I did not hate her as an actress, but I absolutely hated her character. And I do think that this shows how good of an actress she is.
Yes.
Because, which, by the way, did you know that she was actually nominated for Best Actress Award for this film?
For this film? Oh, wow. Well, I mean, she did turn in a really good performance for it. I'll say that.
So Sorry, Wrong Number was 8 years later, I think, than this movie. Not too long, but like I think it came out 8 years later. But it's a stark contrast in the characters. In that one, and it's Sorry Wrong Number, we watch her and she is the terrified, ailing wife of a murderer. And wait, let's be honest, he murdered her. In this movie, the character she plays would not have suffered her character in the other movie. In fact, the character in this movie might have somehow been involved with that one if you think about it too much. But she's just so fantastic. She plays the role to the T.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about her character too in this movie, and I do think this is kind of a neat thing. Maybe it's not something people really think about, but she is quote unquote streetwise, but she's also very elegant. And that's kind of a neat thing because sometimes when you have especially in older films, when you have the streetwise character, they're usually they're from the slums. They don't dress they dress certain way. They act, it's not acting certain way, but she is not like that. She's
elegant. Yeah.
Yeah, very elegant. It puts a bit of spin on her character. Like kind of the same thing with our professors and everything. It does show they're very prim and proper people. They're very educated, but they have zero, and I mean zero street sense. They have zero common sense beyond that because they just spend all of their time in books. And it's just a very, very neat contrast, comparisons in this movie that take place. And she, like I said, she just nails that. I feel like she's got chemistry with everybody in the cast. She commands the scene. And I just thought that was very, especially with people who aren't meant to command the scenes like that.
Yeah.
You can tell who she is and you can tell who they are. And it does a very good contrast with each other.
And speaking more a little bit about the casting, it's whereas was it a little while ago we talked about on it was called The Amazing Adventure, but you had Cary Grant, and it's like he was trying to present himself as like this. I am an everyday schlub, and I'm going to get hired, and I would like to be hired now, and I'm desperate for a job, and you couldn't believe it. And I'm looking at this movie, and it's like, and here you have Gary Cooper, who is a different kind of presence about him. He's a leading man of his time, for sure, but he's also much more believable as someone who could be kind of that nerdy, nebbish guy, in this role. It's like he's not playing up, and he's dressed the part to the role he's in. Whereas I couldn't take Cary Grant seriously if he was to play Bertram Potts right in this movie because he's just too suave. He's just too handsome. There's a little bit more ruggedness to Gary Cooper that lets him play. Even though he's a leading man and he totally fits that bill, he's the kind of leading man that makes sense, that he's more versatile in the kind of things you can plug him into like this. This is a screwball comedy, and he can plug him into that and he's fine. And he's even self-deprecating. He plays against type, to that degree. And I think that really works for him too. He's not as much of a centerpiece to me of attention as Barbara Stanwyck's character is, as she does in this movie. But yeah, I did want to do a shout out to Gary Cooper because I did think they did a good job casting him in this. He's the right guy for this role.
They work so well together.
They really do.
Him and Barbara. And it makes it, chef's kiss kind of thing.
Yeah. Audience, can you guess the connection we're about to make with another movie we watched on Movie Bones? Because if you haven't, I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead, Ryan. Tell them what the connection is.
A group of older, whimsical men find themselves learning more about the world through younger people. And then I said to myself, you can't fool me Beyond Christmas. I know you're out there.
It is the nexus for every film in the universe. We've just established this. Just like Doc Brown said that November 5th, 1955 was somehow a temporal nexus in the space-time continuum. We have found the equivalent space-time continuum in movies, and it is Beyond Christmas, folks. I wouldn't have guessed it. Ryan, you wouldn't have guessed it, but if I could peg one thing we've learned is that Beyond Christmas applies to way more than it ever should. And don't ask us why. Oh, good grief, folks. But so anyway, I can't think of anything else to add to this. So where are you going to come down on it?
So there was a lot of this film that I love. Can you imagine if I just completely turned coat here and said, out of all of these good things, I just hate this film so much? I don't. Obviously, I do not. There were parts of this film that I was like, I can't believe this worked. Honestly, the crime angle, I was sitting there going, I can't believe this worked. And it worked. And they made it work. And they made the characters interesting. And with a movie like this, where you have so many characters, are all of the professors interesting? No, but you can't do it that way. They don't all have the same amount of lines. They don't all have the amount of lore behind them, but they all do work. Like, there are little bits of here and there that just make things just go well. Like, for instance, when they're driving to the wedding, to their supposed wedding anyways, but when they're driving to the wedding, you have this whole scene where they're stopped. There's a whole toll booth scene, and the officer's like, do you have your driver's license? And the guy's like, yes, I have a driver's license. And he's like, buddy, this thing expired in 1911 or 1912, something like that. And he didn't realize it. And but his character, you learn about his character, even though you don't really know much besides, not all more about him, but what you learn about his character is he loves to drive. And that's a little thing that just matters, even though it doesn't matter to the grand scheme of things. It matters for this little part of the story, and it gives you a little bit of character depth. And again, it is very difficult to do when you have so many characters. You look at ensemble movies nowadays, and that's a big thing that people complain about. And I'm going to use Marvel's The Avengers here. People will one of the things that people complain about in The Avengers is oh, this character didn't get as much screen time as this character. And that makes people kind of sad, or that can make people kind of sad and everything, or upset. And that absolutely happens in this movie, but they make every little moment these characters have on the screen.
Yeah.
They make it count. Again, the chemistry is there. The writing, in my opinion, is just phenomenal. And it doesn't, for a screwball comedy, you don't expect the writing to be phenomenal. The action sequences are funny. I came out of this going, you know what? I've got to give this the highest honor because I just love this stinking movie so much. It's one of those movies you're almost thinking, I might watch that one more time, right afterwards. Yeah. So I think it's a Fortune and Glory personally. And it's probably one of my higher rated ones for this particular season. That's my verdict. It is a Fortune and Glory for me.
Okay. Yes, this is very highly rated for me too. I mean, when it comes to comedies, I am I have my own scale for what a Fortune and Glory comedy is. And I've told you this before. It's The Lady Killers for me. And so when I'm kind of weighing how I feel in the broadest terms possible, how I feel about it compared to that. And I'm just below Fortune and Glory. It may be a high trust me, but it's at least a trust me for this. This is very highly rated. I will be coming back to this, a number of times in the future. I'll give it a little time off and I'll come back to it, but it'll be more than once. And so it deserves a lot more than in a museum or something like that. So this is definitely trust me for this. It comes highly rated from both of us. So yeah. So at any time, Ryan and I like to remind our listeners out there that if you're having a good time following along on our movie watching journey together, please do like and subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us what you think we got wrong. Maybe nominate some stuff, that you'd like us to see do in the future. But in any case, we have another movie coming up next week. And do you have it pulled up? Do you know what it is?
So our next movie is this. With the aid of a dubious self-help book and the questionable plan that comes of it, a widow washer climbs the corporate ladder in this musical. The cast is starring Maureen Arthur, Michelle Lee, yeah, that's right, Robert Morse, Anthony Teague, Rudy Vallee.
Rudy Valley.
This is How to Succeed in Business Without Rudy Valley. This is How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, the 1967 version. I feel like I might have seen this musical before, not the movie, but I feel like I might have seen this before. I know I've heard about it, but I am excited about it no matter what.
I had put this on the list a long time ago, and finally it showed up again. This is one of the things about Tubi, folks, is that it's off the list and it's back on the list because that's just the way Tubi works sometimes. He's like, you don't know how long a movie's going to last in there. We just hope it's still there by the time, our review comes out so you guys can join us in it. But yeah, but I saw this recently, and it just kind of it really surprised me. I won't tell you which way it surprised me, but I think one way or the other next week, guys, you're in for a treat listening to how we react to it. So please do come join us for that one. Until then, I can't think of anything else to say, Ryan. So do you have anything else to add, or just watch? Just we should just go ahead and watch the movies.
Yeah, go watch movies.
Watch movies, folks, and join us watching them too. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, we'll see you next week, and Ryan, I'll see you next week. All right.
See you next week.
Corny means old-fashioned.
Kind of hick, loose tooth.
Mother Miss Nard.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.